Hi everyone, I am your host, Jade Haggard, podcasting from Art Universe Laboratory. Welcome to Artist Solace. Hello again, and welcome to Artist Solace, recording here at Art Universe Laboratory. Today, I am sitting down with my friend, Gloria Renollet.
Hello.
I've been getting to know Gloria for the past couple of years and find her to be particularly inspiring. We met while working at the JW Marriott, and throughout our random and intermittent conversations, I found out that she's an inspiring person who does inspiring things. She's also moving to Denver, Colorado next month, which is lucky. Which is another reason why I thought it would be cool to interview her before she leaves, before I lose her. So today I'm going to poke and prod at her brain to learn what is driving her decisions in life and see how they all connect. Gloria, thanks for coming on.
Jade, thank you so much for having me. I feel honored and grateful.
I'm happy. I'm happy.
Me too.
I'm happy for that. We'll start off by having you just give an overview of what you're doing right now, and then I'll talk about what I'm doing now. Then we'll lead into questions about you.
Okay.
So what's up? What's going on with Gloria right now?
Right now,
These days.
I'm making sure I'm waking up early enough to make coffee. No, I'm kidding.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So important right now. Transitioning, trying to prepare for my move out to Denver. Right now, just working as a server. Just graduated college a month ago, so reveling in that feeling of not having so many responsibilities of papers and things to study for. So, yeah, just kind of in a transition space.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. I am currently actually taking a Foundations in Neuroscience class because I have decided that I want to be a neuroengineer. And so last year, it's funny how I got to this point, because last year I decided that I wanted to pursue nursing. So
Right.
I started taking a sociology class. I took that class.
I remember that.
Then I took a class called Statistics and Behavioral Sciences, which is about psychology. Behavioral sciences is a science of studying the field of psychology
Yeah.
and other relative fields. And it was a statistics course, which involved math. Oh my God, I was so into it.
So opposite of me. Math is not the thing that lights up my brain.
And having an art background, all artists are always like, oh, art, math, I can't do math, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And which I think is just, I'm going to get off on a tangent here for a minute.
Go for it.
I think it's counterproductive thinking, because as an artist, if you have the ability to imagine abstract concepts in your head, you have an advantage in classes like that, which is why I think I liked it so much.
Absolutely.
So taking that class got my interest in psychology renewed. And then I went from nurse to wanting to pursue clinical psychology. And then over Christmas break, I did a couple of future authoring, this thing called a future authoring program. And then I was able to determine that I'm actually interested in neuroscience.
Right.
Which is related to psychology. So I'm like, okay, I want to do neuroscience. But then what about neuroscience? And then I found out there was a thing called neuroengineering. And I'm like, that seems to be
right up Jade's alley.
Yeah, because it just combines so many fields, like physics, math, psychology.
Yes.
So,
and you know what that makes me think of is Inception and the movie, and kind of like the engineering of dreams.
I haven't seen that yet, but I've heard
sorry.
of it. No. I probably won't watch it.
Okay.
So.
Well, good. But anyways, fascinating engineering and dreams.
So
Honestly, you would enjoy it.
Okay. If it's on Netflix, I may.
It is.
And
I
if
can
still
confirm
2
that.
weeks from now I'm still thinking about it, I'll watch it.
Perfect.
So that's where I'm at. I'm taking my class now. Really, really digging it. Just one. This will lead me into talking about what I'm doing with the podcast this season and why I have you on.
Yes.
So a background of the podcast. Last year, I was doing the podcast and interviewing artists who either wanted to pursue their art full-time or who already are. And these were fields like visual art, comedy, music, writing, etc. And I was interviewing them to extract inspiration. But this year, I'm tweaking it a little bit. And actually, you kind of inspired me. Because I thought it'd be really cool to interview you. And it's like, you know what? She seems to be very inspiring. She did a TED Talk. That's inspiring. I want to know what's going through her brain. So I'm going to have her on the podcast. So this is pretty much going to be a tool for me, even though I'm not working as a visual artist anymore. This is a means for me to extract inspiration from people in my network. Like, these are all people that I know or have known for a long time. And
well, I'm honored to be a part of this journey.
Poke and prod.
Love it.
Their brains.
Thank you.
So that's what I'm doing right now. Starting season 2. I'm really excited.
Season 2.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
And here we are.
That was a much better explanation of where you're at. I'm amazed at like all your mind journey and how you got there. This is a big time for you.
Yeah, I feel
more
more specific in my aim.
Good.
Which is the goal of that future authoring program I was talking about.
Yes.
So
that's so affirming.
And I'm trying to find a way to intermingle all my interests. So yeah. Enough about me. We'll get to you. So where are you from?
I am from Indianapolis, Indiana.
Uh-huh.
I've always been born and raised here. I am born and raised here. I haven't really dug into the community much until like the past 4 or 5 years. Felt like I didn't really realize where I was living. And through Tedx Indianapolis and through meeting friends, spending more time on the east side and downtown, really discovered what all Indianapolis can bring. And it's honestly going to be a sad place, or sad to leave this place.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I've thought that too.
Yeah.
Like, man, if I move, I lose like all those connections.
I know. And I mean, I'm so happy to move out to Denver, and I know that Denver just has an incredible amount of things to offer and opportunities. But Indianapolis is unique, and it's a cool spot. So
now, maybe you just said this, but did you start doing that because of being in college? Was that inspired from your college courses? Good
question. I'm trying to think. So probably, yes, probably starting college and just having friends downtown and on the east side it kind of drove me more to see what's there and what's around. And then especially once I started getting connected with Tedx Indianapolis, which was halfway through college, that gave me so much more of an opportunity to see what's in our city.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Tedx Indianapolis. Let's talk about like what TEDx is.
Yes.
And you said there's a difference between TED Talks and TEDx.
Right.
So
it's commonly confused that if you like speak on a TEDx stage, that you gave a TED Talk, but it's actually considered a TEDx Talk because there's the actual TED conference that actual TED and Chris Anderson and his team put on, and different kinds like TED Women, TED Global, etc., TED Active. But anyone in any city with a license, which you can apply for online, can host a TEDx event in their community, in their school, and there's several different types of events like university, salon event, and there are all over the world. Like, you wouldn't be able to imagine the cities that they're in. Like, there's a TEDx event in Iraq, in Sudan, in Somalia, like all over the world. So I'm a part of the one in Indianapolis.
Okay, that makes sense now.
Yeah.
So
right.
So the way you described it is where's the actual TEDx? Where's the actual TED Talk convention?
So I think they move around. It began in California, and I want to say like 2002, 2003 maybe. but they switched the location around.
I see.
Yeah.
So there's one TED Talk that one guy runs.
Yeah,
was his name again?
Chris Anderson.
Chris Anderson.
He began.
Okay.
Right.
But if one is hosted anywhere else, it's considered a TEDx.
Right.
Talk.
If it's independently organized by a group of people in the city.
Yeah. So you gave a talk.
I did.
Which I thought you initiated for whatever reason. But how did you get that opportunity?
Right. So TEDx IUPUI, they had an event back in 2013. And it's funny because I had actually talked with a friend of mine that I met so randomly in college. And I was like, I've thought about starting my own TEDx event, and I wanted to start it at IUPUI because, like, I was going to IUPUI. It'd be a good end. It would be like an easy way to get an application through. And long story short, that didn't end up working out. But then the next year, I saw that TEDx IUPUI actually had reinstituted their TEDx event, and a friend like screenshotted it, messaged it to me like, "You've got to speak at this event. I feel like you have so much to say." And I was like, "No, I don't." And she was like, she brought up one scenario where I gave a speech in my American feminist rhetoric class, and she said people were like in tears after this talk, and that made me think. I think that it would almost be selfish to say that, to not consider that I might have something to say, because
wait, what? So you gave a speech in
college in my American feminist rhetoric class, and she was bringing that up, saying that like
people were crying.
Yeah, just because of I was just talking about kind of being vulnerable and knowing that every person is a universe. It's kind of been my life anthem, and she was like, you have to draw from this and apply to speak. So I applied to speak, and they accepted my application.
Okay. So you had to apply for the opportunity.
Yes.
I guess I was imagining them coming up and asking you.
No, yeah. So I just applied, and they invited me.
Wow. That's so cool.
It was exciting.
See, when I went to IUPUI, I didn't really... That wasn't around at the time.
Probably not.
Yeah, I don't... Around 2013 is when I started hearing about TED Talks.
Interesting.
Yeah.
When did you first start hearing about TED Talks?
I think when... This was either the first one I saw, or it's just the one I remember the most. Being my very first one.
I always love hearing people's journey to TED.
Yeah, right. I was in a class called, what was it called? I remember the numbers, like JR10 or something. What was it called? Oh my gosh, I don't even know. The professor was named...
It's funny you remember the professor possibly and the numbers, but not the name of the class.
In my head. Dang it.
Do you remember like
Flounder Lee was his name. Weird name.
What was it about?
But an inspiring guy. He let us watch this. He had us watch this TED Talk after we all gave presentations. It's funny what the TED Talk was about. The TED Talk was about power posing.
Yes, body language. Amy Cuddy.
Maybe.
Yeah.
She had like pink lipstick on.
Yep, and a green shirt.
Blonde hair.
Yeah, power posing before you give a speech. Ever since I watched that TED Talk,
really?
that every time before I go on stage, for anyone who's listening, go out and watch Amy Cuddy's TED Talk on power posing. It will transform your brain. It's amazing.
Just doing it for 2 minutes.
2 minutes. It's all before an interview, anything.
Yeah, what it's supposed to do technically. So imagine this, that maybe you're nervous for going into an interview. Yeah, Gloria's power posing.
I'm power posing right now.
Here, let me lean back in my chair.
Yes. Do I sound more confident now?
Sound more relaxed and confident.
Perfect.
Yes, you do. So imagine that you're going into an interview and you're scared. So what this lady pretty much suggests is that if you say you go in front of a mirror, you can like hold your hands above your head in like an excited pose. You can also put your hands on your hips. Basically any position that is, say, like dominant or expresses confidence is considered a power pose. And if you do this for 2 minutes, especially while you're looking at yourself, you can also do it without looking at yourself. But I think it's more effective if you're looking in a mirror. This is how I'm going to interpret it because of my neuroscientific brain.
Yes.
It releases chemicals in your brain that pretty much boost your confidence. And studies show that can help you.
Your cortisol levels drop.
Yeah, there you go. Cortisol levels drop. And that will help you have a better interview, for lack of a better word. So, yep, I think that's the first one I watched.
That's
so
such
funny.
a good one. I love, what I love most about that one is that it's so practical, but also I don't want to completely give it away, but there's a part in there where she is so vulnerable about her life experience in kind of like trying to fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
And she cries on stage and just a little bit, and you can see she's emotional. And I just always remember being so touched by that.
Thinking about that.
Yes.
I remember that.
It's beautiful.
Because she was saying, I think from what the story said, she was talking about how she felt like she had imposter syndrome. You know, she'd had a brain injury and she was in college and she didn't feel like she belonged there.
Right.
Which sometimes people experience that if they're in a place where they don't think they belong.
Yes.
You know? And she went up to her professor and she's like, I don't belong here, blah, blah, blah. And then her professor said, no, you're going to go out there and you're going to fake it. You're going to fake it till you make it. Mm-hmm. And then she goes on from there. So that's fun. I forgot that phrase.
Yeah.
I forgot she said that in there.
Yeah.
Got to fake it till you make it. Because sometimes I think about that if I'm having trouble psyching myself up doing something.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's amazing that you brought up her because she's one of several people that I've watched give a TED Talk or a TEDx talk that I think really have shaped my mindset and kind of have been the building blocks for me giving my talk because they've shaped my perspective so much and what I believe and what I talk about in my talk at TEDx IUPUI. So it's neat to look back on those people and think, wow, those were some of the grounding people and my inspiration for why I began thinking this way or doing things this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I was mentioning earlier, it's like a catalyst to where you are now.
Yes.
That's so funny.
It's good to look back.
Mm-hmm.
I think my first TED Talk I watched was with my friend Lily. She was like, have you ever heard of TED Talks? And I was like, no, what are those? She was like, you'll love them. And we got on Netflix, watched, what was it? Something about, I forget the title, but it was by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And it was about the single story. That was it. Shaped my entire worldview.
Single story.
The danger of a single story.
What is that?
It was about the idea that when we look at a culture or look at a person, that there's danger when we just believe and trust in a single story about them. Like, you're white, you're female, I can make these assumptions about you. Or you are from Africa, you've never heard of Mariah Carey, and you don't, act like me or think like me. And she said, she just talks about how there's so much danger in thinking that way. How there's always, like you've mentioned before, like there's dual sides, and believing one thing or even two things is a false dichotomy.
Oh. So is she inspiring? She's trying to inspire people maybe to
look beyond what is obvious.
I mean,
look
right.
Beyond like what's on the media or whatever.
Like, as you can see a person, and of course, it's natural to have these assumptions pop up, like blah, blah, blah. But then at times, maybe you should think, well, maybe he or she's not really what they seem.
Yeah. Yes.
We don't know their story.
Exactly.
Don't assume things,
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something that inspired you?
Yeah.
Because after watching your TED Talk, that makes sense now, because there's this line, which I'll let you explain here in a minute, where you talk about something about a story. It seems like it has a theme.
How
anyway, let's talk about yours. Yeah.
Okay.
So, let's talk about the TED Talk you gave.
Right. Okay.
When did you record this? Or when was it recorded?
Yeah, it's September 28th. I remember this date
Oh,
because...
it was last year.
No kidding. On the way to this talk, someone drove into my car, got in a car accident.
Oh my gosh.
On the way to get it. So I take like a moment, and before walking into rehearsal, I do what my great professor John would recommend, and just to breathe. So just took some deep breaths, tried to collect myself. I was still like shaken up from getting in a car wreck, and then gave
So
my
that's
talk.
what happened to your car now.
That's what happened
Oh my
to
gosh.
old Black Bear. R.I.P. Black Bear is dead now.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Do you think you were nervous? Or what happened?
No.
How did that happen?
Yeah, so after that happened, I felt pretty calm all day, honestly. And then that kind of made me feel shaken up. Did some breathing, felt better, walked into rehearsal. I noticed that kind of the other people around me, like some workers and other speakers, were showing signs of stress. So somehow that inversely made me feel more relaxed, like, oh, I don't feel that. I don't know if you can ever relate to that. And then also right before I went on stage, I was just meditating in the back and just deep breathing and thinking about like naming 5 things I see and 4 things I smell and 3 things I can feel. I don't know if you've ever done that practice.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was maybe what, like you were going off your outline for your talk.
Oh, no.
That's just the way you kind of like get
Just
yourself.
calm down. So I wasn't
down.
nervous when I walked in.
Do you experience a different, like an adrenaline rush? Like, does your heart pump?
Yeah, which I've heard, someone told me one time that the chemical reaction in our bodies of excitement and is it anxiety or nervousness are actually the same. It's just how we think about the chemical reaction or something.
Chemicals are the same. Yes, because I'm pretty sure it's an adrenaline rush.
Yeah. So I did feel like a little bit of a rush, but I didn't feel like super nervous.
You're able to control it.
Well, yeah, I think so anyways.
That's what I see. I mean, if you, like, yes, those things are going to happen. Like, if I'm ever nervous about something or get excited, I'm usually able to control it.
That's so good.
Right.
Takes a strong mind.
That's what running is good for. That's why I run for an hour before I record.
That's good.
So now, okay, so you weren't nervous at all. And what was I going to ask? I lost track. Remember? I lost track of that question. Like,
Yeah.
ooh, that'd be good to ask. So let's talk more about the TED Talk you gave.
Okay.
So what was the theme of your TED Talk?
The best way to summarize it is that in this polarized political climate, the most healing thing we can say to someone right now is tell me your story. So the title of my talk is Tell Me Your Story. And it's the idea that, and it doesn't have to be that simplified, but if we spend more energy and time looking at people in our lives, people we don't know, people we do know, and pose them with more questions and statements about, tell me more about how you arrived at that thought or that idea. Or if you're in an argument, especially, that's helpful. Or tell me how you got here, physically or mentally. Tell me about your life. Tell me what you're feeling, what you're thinking. Those are all derivatives of tell me your story. I think that those things are healing instead of, let me tell you what I think.
Okay.
Things like that.
Okay, why is it healing then?
So, I kind of dig into my talk a little bit about how when we empathetically listen, it's neurobiologically healing. And when we have a posture and the way that we're communicating all has an effect on actually healing someone else. So there's a study done with veterans with PTSD, and therapists and neurologists came in and let them share their story over and over, and that process actually healed DNA in their mind at like a DNA level.
What?
They were being healed neurobiologically. So that kind of showed that like when you tell someone like, tell me your story, you're actually helping them on a healing process. And then on the other side of that, I talk about how storytelling is mutually powerful. Like it's not just for them, it's for you, obviously, because you're gaining the privilege and responsibility of hearing this story, but also you're connecting, you're reminding yourself that we're a part of something greater than ourselves.
Oh, man. I'm like staring in awe over here, mouth agape. Those are themes that I've heard of before. But hearing you explain it, from your perspective is definitely interesting.
Yeah.
So you're saying like, well, especially in the case of the soldiers, man, that's, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes.
It's pretty bad.
Yes.
I can't even imagine.
I can't.
But just the fact that people can just talk about what happened to them.
And it's healing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm imagining right now is, say somebody is suffering from that and they don't have anybody to talk to. All of that stress is just
still inside.
Enclosed in their bodies.
Yes.
And it affects their DNA.
It does.
And then when you tell the story,
isn't that incredible?
The neurobiological processes transform the DNA.
Yes.
Oh my God, it's so fascinating.
It's amazing.
Oh my gosh.
Like looking back on my life, I can so clearly see how the idea of story is such a theme. I think it was back in 2015 or 13. My sister and I went to a conference called the Storyline Conference, and it was like the last one they did. A bunch of my heroes got together and did some talks, and one of the takeaways from that conference was your story matters, and we must realize that our living story is something to be shared and learned from. And when we realize that, I think we're healing ourselves because we feel more inclined to share what we've been through, what we're doing, and it transforms our self-perspective and how we see others.
Yeah.
Our story matters.
That's very interesting. I've heard too, and based on things that I've been learning lately, if you sort out your past, some people don't want to approach their past.
Yeah.
Because they have tough lives, who the hell doesn't have
Understandably.
something? But yeah, once you sort that out, you'll have a better idea where you are now, and you'll be able to sort out your goals for the future.
Do you feel like that's helped you? You mentioned at the beginning how you feel like you have a clearer aim of what you want to pursue. Did it, just out of curiosity, did it begin with kind of looking back in your past or your story?
I actually was reflecting on that yesterday. I don't remember why. Because I told you about this future authoring program.
Yes.
It's an online writing system.
Yes.
That's meant to help you sort out your past.
Yes.
Determine where you are in the future, or determine where you are now, and then guide you to sort out what your future might look like. The only thing I used was the future part because I feel like I've already gone through my head my story about the past and why I did some of the things I did and why I made some bad decisions that maybe were detrimental to my life at the time. So I didn't necessarily reflect on my past so much within the past year as I did my future. Like my present and my future. It's like, what am I interested in now that gets my adrenaline pumping?
Yeah.
And how's that going to shape my future?
Yeah.
That's really what this past year I've been doing.
Nice.
Not so much my past.
Okay.
But definitely like a little bit of present.
Yeah.
And then my future.
They're all signs.
So yeah. And whenever you sort out your future, like that really I think that helps neurobiologically as well. So that's interesting. Yeah.
What else have you, when you've studied the brain, what have you learned about story? Are you familiar with Joseph Campbell at all?
I've heard his name.
Okay.
Talk about him a little bit, and I may.
Yeah, he wrote the book A Hero with 1,000 Faces. It's the idea that like every story can be broken down into 7 elements. Like there's a hero with a problem who meets a guide who gives him a plan, etc. And it's like this framework that virtually all people who write stories or look at their own stories can use.
Huh.
Yeah.
I know I've heard that name at some point, but I haven't heard of that particular topic.
Yeah.
Is he someone that you've read?
No, actually. But at the Storyline Conference, Donald Miller, one of the speakers, brought that up to be able to like look at our own stories. Like, if you're the hero, what is your problem? Who is your guide? What plan are they giving you? I'm forgetting the other steps. But I was just thinking in terms of like the mind or looking at your past. I wonder if anything has ever come up as like significant things that, I don't know, create a problem. Maybe this is a rabbit hole.
I mean, really, like what you're talking about, the fact that telling your own story changes your neurobiology. I've heard that. I've been learning about that.
Neat.
Those little serendipitous.
I love that word.
I know. I have a friend who's a writer, and he uses that word sometimes. And I had to actually like look it up. What does that mean? And now I keep finding myself saying it to describe a moment when things seem to be similar with each other or whatever. I might be butchering the definition.
Serendipitous. It's a delightful word.
Thanks, Danny, for your word.
Thanks, Danny.
So, okay, let's get back to this TED Talk.
Yeah.
Now, how did that affect you? Say, like, after you gave the talk, which if you guys should listen to it. So look up Gloria Renollet TED Talk. Can you do that?
I think if you YouTube my name, or like Tedx IPY, will probably come up. Forewarning, there's every time I watch it, it bothers me. There's a slide that comes up in the end that's not supposed to be there, and like the audio is a little bit hard to hear. But besides that, try to listen to the message. But anyways, let me think. Right after, I don't think I remember feeling significantly like I had done something that I was meant to do. There's something very significant and meaningful when you have the opportunity, the honor of sharing something that's inside of you, especially like a core message. And when I'm talking about in my talk how every person is a universe, that has been one of my core messages since a fairly young age, that to say that to a group of people felt like I was living my purpose.
So you had this thought, you've had this thought since you were young?
So actually, not really a thought, but a quote by Elie Wiesel.
Okay.
And he says, never see a person as an abstraction, but see in every person a universe. And it changes the way we see people. How old were you whenever you... I'm trying to remember. I think I was...
Because that's a profound message at that young.
I think my dad showed it to me. I want to say I was maybe like in teen years, like maybe like 14 or 15. Can't quite remember, but I remember thinking this will change everything.
Yeah, man. Now you've mentioned previously that your dad is philosophical.
He's a very philosophical dude.
Did he have a huge... did he impact you?
Definitely.
Yeah.
He, I have clear memories of him picking me up from school or something, and just feeling like the conversational space we had, I could ask him any question, like, how far away is Mars? Or, I don't know, anything. And he would always like say, good question, and like try to answer it, and I always liked his insight. I would say he was a very big influence in the way I think. Okay. And he would always like encourage us to think like no thought is too big for your mind, or no book is too hard to read. I remember picking up this book in his den one time called Orthodoxy by G.K. Chesterton.
Wow.
And I, like, every sentence was filled with words I didn't understand. But the idea of trying to stretch my brain to that level as a younger child felt like a fun mental exercise.
Wow. Yeah.
He was a big influence.
Now, what does he do?
He works for a CBS station, but more importantly, he rides his bike. He's a father. He's, just
I noticed
wonderful
he was
person.
carrying a book around.
Was
At the
he?
graduation party, he was like making notes. I was
That's
like,
so funny.
what's he
I'm
reading?
very curious what book he was carrying around. Yeah.
What kind of books have you known him to read?
Oh, he likes John O'Donohue. He, Madeline L'Engle.
Never heard of any of them.
Some names are escaping me, but anyone who's able to see past the obvious.
Ah.
Yep. And
Okay.
be able to see things as life is not what you first see. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And my mom and dad have such a great balance, because in the same way my mom is able to show me that sometimes things are more simple, and that lets me feel so much more peaceful about life. Like, oh, I don't need to make this situation more complicated. And she's like, just take a deep breath, trust in God, you're okay.
Chill out.
Chill out.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's a
so
great
you had
balance.
that duality.
Yes.
growing up. Like, yes, things can be really complex, but then at
Yeah.
the same time,
Because I can get lost in
They
my
can
head
just be this
thinking
thing.
like, the world is enormous and everyone's stories are enormous, which is good and important, but also at the same time, my mom will just like help me realize, like, just wake up, just take it step by step. It's wonderful.
Ah.
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Very cool.
What'd they think about you doing a TED Talk? Did they come to see
Oh,
it?
they
Did
sure
get to come?
did.
Yeah.
My whole family. They were very
Aw.
proud of me
Uh-huh.
and encouraging. And my dad, my grandfather, his dad had passed away when I was 2. And he looked at me with tears in his eyes and he said, your grandfather would be proud. And I was like, oh. But yeah, they were proud of me and encouraging the whole way.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you too.
Thank you.
Yeah. I remember like seeing that and listening to it because you did a really good job. And I was
Thank
like, man,
you.
this chick's serious.
You're so kind.
No,
it
and
was fun.
those things to me, man, those just feed me inspiration.
What things?
Like people who do inspiring things. I keep saying
Yeah.
things. It's such a broad term.
But sure.
Go out and give a speech, a recorded speech to a crowd of people. Something I haven't done yet, but would like to do. And I'm like,
But you do in your own way by
Yeah.
doing this podcast. How would you define something as inspiring to you?
man, that's a really good question. Oh my gosh. What things are inspiring to me? This is actually kind of interesting. I notice a physiological difference.
Wow.
I get
It's all
goosebumps.
connected. That's so cool.
I get goosebumps. My adrenaline will start to pump. I could tear up. You know?
Yes. Yes.
Throughout this interview, and I notice them too. I'll get goosebumps when you say something that really hits me. I'm like, okay, that's inspiring right there. And I'll get goosebumps. I'm like, is it cold in here or is it me? No, it's me. It's kind of fluctuating. So
Wow.
and that's how I know something's really interesting. Studying neuroscience. I freaking get an adrenaline rush and I get excited and my heart's like,
That's great
like,
that
oh, it's so exciting.
you can pay attention to those things, like the physical responses. It's all connected.
Yeah. That's how I know. And I guess it's mostly primarily people who are pushing themselves to inspire others.
Yes.
People who inspire others.
Yes.
You know, like say you gave a TED talk to a crowd of people about something that inspires you. You're trying to inspire them, and then that inspires me. And I look to that as something that I could possibly do in the future.
Yes.
Like, okay, if I want to do that and I want to impact people,
Absolutely.
that's a means by which I could do it.
Yes.
So, stuff like that.
Absolutely.
You know, those musicians who get out there and perform on stage.
Yes. I think that
Oh my
all
God.
begins with people who realize that they have something to share, that their story
God,
through
teacher.
music,
Yeah.
through art matters.
And the whole process of getting to that point to where you are that good to sing for and play for 2 or 3 hours, like,
It's amazing.
holy shit.
Yeah.
Like,
It's incredible.
that's what I see. I see now that I'm older, I see that when I see a musician, because I particularly like musicians. Because I want to be one.
okay.
But, they inspire me too. Teachers.
Teachers
I
are
think
incredible.
teaching
Yes.
would be the most terrifying thing in the world.
Oh my gosh, I have so
my
much
God.
respect for teachers. My sister's a teacher, my sister-in-law is a teacher.
Oh, that's right.
My sister Grace did some teaching at one point, and I am amazed at them. Like, truly. There's a funny video on YouTube with Key and Peele if you treated...
I love kids.
I know, I love them too.
Yes.
But they have this video if the media treated teachers like athletes. Can you imagine? Like, just all this fame and glory and, like, what's the teacher gonna do next? It's like, what a just flip. Because
brilliant.
teachers are the ones that, of course, deserve, like, they're dealing with mental, emotional, like, mathematical issues. Children.
With children.
Yes. All day.
And it doesn't matter what group of children, because you can have really young children and you think that's hard. Then deal with these hormonal children in high school.
Yes.
And all, like, I don't
Just
know.
need so much. They need, like,
Shout
a
out to
breakfast
teachers.
sandwich, or
Yeah.
sometimes a hug, or sometimes, like, a hard, stern voice in their life. Yeah, just
Right.
all of these things, and every child is different.
I mean, maybe they get used to after like the first year or
Yeah.
two. They're better. I mean, of course, your biology changes whenever you do those things. So I
Yes.
think over the years, that's when they are able to harness it better. But I always hear first years for teachers are
so
the hardest.
Now, get this. My sister Elise, she just graduated college, took her first teaching job at a school called Bingham Academy in Ethiopia, teaching French. So not only was she teaching for the first year, but she was teaching
See, I
in
just
a
got
different
goosebumps.
country.
Just
Yes,
got goosebumps.
I know. Gives me goosebumps. Like, I can't imagine all of those things, but she's also a huge inspiration.
So after she graduated, she went to Africa.
Yes.
Had never been there?
Never had been there.
Teaching French.
Teaching
Oh my God.
French.
That's like the ultimate
Can you imagine?
DNA changer right there.
I know. I think that scientists should probably study her DNA.
Well, it would be like before and after. That'd be the real
Yeah.
cool thing to
True.
see. I'm actually learning about gene transcription and
Please
gene
tell me
expression.
about that.
Oh yeah.
Gene expression, yes. This reminds me of something I'm trying to remember, but talk about it. I feel like I heard something about gene expression recently. Maybe from you.
Well, this is what I'm learning. So
Okay.
I'm studying neuroscience, so I'm studying a neuron.
Okay.
But these things happen in every cell. So you have a cell, and in that cell is the nucleus.
Mm-hmm.
Within the nucleus is where genetic information lies. Your
Okay.
chromosomes are made of genes. Oh, it's good. I need to describe this because this will help me on my tests.
Oh, good.
So your gene, let's see, whenever a gene, I guess, needs to be expressed, there's a mechanism that attaches to the gene that reads the genetic information and then codes this thing, this chemical.
Yeah.
So imagine this thing going over a gene. Like imagine this little ball going over a gene, like a line.
Okay.
And then that prints out
Oh.
a piece of paper, prints out a copy of that information.
Huh.
And then that piece of paper, that's just like a line. At least these are the images that they have in the book. That line then travels out of the nucleus of the cell through a pore, and it then searches for this thing called a ribosome, which is another little structure. We'll just say like it's a little ball. The paper goes through that ball, and then it takes that information on the paper and then prints something else out. Like it synthesizes a protein.
Okay.
And these proteins, they are little things that do things in the cell. That's, I don't know, does that make sense?
I think so, yeah. So it's just like the gene expressing itself, being printed out, goes through this ribo something and then prints out again?
Pretty much, but it makes a thing.
It makes a thing.
It makes a thing.
Awesome.
It makes a structure called a protein.
Protein.
And then the proteins act within the cell to carry out cell functions, like whether or not information takes material down the axon of a cell.
Interesting.
And to go down to release like serotonin.
Okay.
Eventually.
I would like
so many electrical and chemical reactions that get to that thing. But I don't want to say, I want to say a bunch of words, but I don't want people to get too confused. So I see it as like prints out this piece of paper, and then that paper is then translated into something else, and it makes a thing, and then that thing helps the cell function.
Interesting. What made you think of this? Yeah.
Why did we...
gene expression.
Okay. Why are we talking about gene expression? Do you remember? I got lost in a nucleus. I'm in a nucleus right now.
We were talking about teachers and studying their DNA.
Yes. Okay. So that changes. Like that... And I was thinking about that while I was running this morning. That's funny. Because I was thinking... Because I've heard... I follow this psychologist who talks about gene expression. Whenever you do things that push yourself beyond your current level of competence, such as giving a speech in front of people, it transforms your genes.
Wow.
So those little genes get transformed somehow. And then they get coded and reflect that different transformation.
Wow.
If that makes sense.
Yes.
So,
okay,
now I remember where we were. So, if we would have looked at your sister's genes before that,
yes,
they would have been substantially different.
Fascinating.
After doing that thing.
Wow, that is really interesting.
And it's funny because I started thinking about that while running, because I ran for an hour this morning, and it was like...
Jade.
I should have rested today, but the reason I ran is because I like to run before an interview.
Okay.
So I'm fresh.
You seem fresh.
Exercise does the same thing.
Okay.
And so I'm like running up the hill, running out of breath. I'm like, oh God. But exercise transforms your genes. I'm transforming my genes.
Yes, what a great thing to remember next time I'm exercising. Transforming my genes.
And it makes everything else. Like, and this happens in every cell of your body. So you transform your genes. You are transforming every cell in your body to act more sharper and
Wow.
Bam. Like, oh my gosh.
That is food for thought that can really change
That's what happens when your
perspective.
What we were talking about earlier. Whenever you talk about your story.
Yeah.
And that neurobiological transformation transforms your genes.
Wow.
And makes it work better.
Wow.
To help you function better.
That is amazing.
Right?
Yes.
Oh, I know. That's
down
why I'm
to
so
the
fascinated.
cellular level. Like, people think that sometimes that life is just you and your physical body, and like us talking, and it's just what we can see. Life is so much more than what we can see. Yeah. Yes.
It's hard to imagine. Like, I'm staring at your skin cells and all that stuff's going on. Like, really super fast. So
it is amazing.
Yeah, that's why I'm interested in that.
I think what I was, when you said gene expression, what I thought of is this class I took with communication and mental health. I think it was in that class where we talked about, like, if someone is genetically an alcoholic, they can change their habits to not be an alcoholic, and that changes their genes, like
Yeah.
at the genetic level,
believe that.
and transforms their lineage. I think I got that right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, the lineage. Yeah, because if you transform your genes and then you procreate,
yeah,
your kids inherit the transformed genes.
exactly.
Oh, man.
We are. Life is so much bigger
I believe
than
that now.
yes,
But you have,
than just
you know,
our lives.
Even just incrementally.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're an alcoholic and you're drinking every night and you choose just to not drink one night,
Mm-hmm.
that'll have. I would make a big bet that would have a little impact.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's fascinating.
Genes.
I know, man. They're so complicated too. Like I'm learning that stuff and I'm tired. Like I
Yeah.
feel like I'm sleeping better because I'm pushing.
It's like your brain
Myself.
trying to understand itself.
Yeah. And I have to try to imagine it mentally too. This is pushing my ability to generate images.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and that's what just makes me tired. So, okay. So,
I love it. Love it.
So I kind of want to wrap up with talking about the research you did out east. I might be getting that wrong. Did you? Now, what you did
In the Middle East.
You went to the Middle East last year.
This summer. But yes, it's 2020 already. Yes,
Yeah.
last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that a little bit. 'Cause
Okay.
That's something
Yeah.
interesting. And then
Definitely.
we'll talk about where you see yourself in the future
Okay.
in Colorado.
Exciting.
So tell us about the research you did.
Okay. Well, honestly, it began with a desire to go to the Middle East, mixed with these messages that I've kept receiving in my life about how life and people and cultures and existence is like, it's so much more than just what we can see or hear on the media. The danger of a single story. And so I know that here in America, typically, when you hear about the Middle East, it is only on a news channel, and you're only hearing about the war, terror, and the Middle East is something to be pitied. And but I've also heard these counter stories of this rich culture that's dynamic and interesting, and so I wanted to go there, and then also paired it with just a desire to dig deep. So talked with a professor, he was the principal investigator of the study, made plans to go out there, and went to Jordan, Kuwait, and United Arab Emirates. And it was just an incredible experience.
Get goosebumps.
Amazing people, and I loved going somewhere where when I told people I was going there, they often responded with, "Are you afraid? What are you thinking?" And I so gladly told them, I'm not afraid, because people live there, and these countries are more than the war and the terror and the pity that the media places
Okay, say
on
that
them.
again. People from here?
People from here.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
I can see it.
So, yeah, and I loved having opportunity after opportunity to share with people after my research that the Middle East is this beautiful place, and I met these wonderful people who were loving and vulnerable and hospitable, and they made this incredible food. Shout out to Magluba. And I saw Petra and history and learned about the history of these Arab countries. Interesting tidbit here, I was interviewing this Egyptian man in Kuwait, and he was sharing how I think it was after World War I or World War II, where a British general was given the task in 5 days to divide up the Gulf countries and make lines for countries in the Middle East. That happened by a British man, not someone from the culture. So after he divided up these countries, like where Kuwait would be, where United Arab Emirates would be, where Yemen would be, where Oman would be, he was dividing up families and tribes and cultures and traditions. And that was kind of the beginning of how the Middle East is shaped the way it is. But it was amazing to see, to smell saffron and a souk, and look at these beautiful ornate dresses in Jordan, and watch traditional dancing, and it was incredible.
So you got to learn, a little bit about the history.
Learned a lot, yeah.
And, well, among many other things.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And so that's, okay, so that is, maybe you said this already. That's what you were researching? What was the goal?
I didn't make that super clear. So some of my research question was in essence to show that within every culture, there's beauty, meaning, and dignity.
Okay.
And that especially in the Middle East, we need to look at it at a place beyond a place of terror, war, and pity. And so I'd interview these people about their stories, what they did, if they were aware of this common American narrative, single story narrative. And then I'd finish every interview with the question, if you could tell people of America or the city of Indianapolis one thing, what would it be? And people would share, just to see us like you are.
Yeah, man.
Or to see us beyond our ethnicity or what you think our ethnicity is, and what it means. To stop seeing people in a tobe or in a burqa in the airport and think terrorist.
Or shouting, "Durka, durka."
Yes. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. And just to see us as like people with a culture and history and desires and things like you.
So you would interview specific people. Like, how did you find these people?
Great question.
And how many did you interview?
Maybe like 30 people.
Wow.
I kind of happened through what we call in research like the snowball effect. So I'd interview one person and say, do you have anybody else who'd want to do this interview? But a lot of contacts came through my professor, John. He connected me with some people in Kuwait. And then also Couchsurfing. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's been a great resource.
I remember you talking about that at work.
Yeah.
One day. This is familiar now.
It is incredible. Just this huge community of people who just want to connect with other travelers.
And this is a social media, something
hope.
On
humanity.
On the internet you can...
It's an app.
An app.
Well, also a website.
Gosh. Okay.
It's great.
So let's talk about that. Let's elaborate on Couchsurfing. How did that go?
My first Couchsurfing experience was stellar. I was planning this huge trip when I was 19 to go to 9 different countries, and I didn't have accommodation. Found Couchsurfing, forget how, and stayed with this woman in Sudan. Her name is Fatma Joda. Huge, consider her my sister now. And she hosted me for 2.5 weeks in Sudan and showed me the culture. We had great talks, and I just adore her. And she just shared so much with me. And Couchsurfing, yeah, that was I'm so glad I found it.
So you found all these people.
Yeah.
How you described it is the snowball effect. You didn't, you didn't have a specific lineup, but you just kind of went off your professor's contacts. Mm-hmm. Then when you went out there, you just
found
went
people
with
through
the flow.
Couchsurfing, went with the flow.
Uh-huh.
Met people who would show me other people.
Again? What was the span of time?
Let's see. I had just come from Poland for a study abroad trip.
What?
And that was so that was through my communication department. Actually, it was a great foundation for doing my research. Actually, come from Poland, then went to Jordan. I'm trying to think of the time frame. I want to say 6 weeks. About 2 weeks in each country.
Man, that doesn't seem very long.
It's
maybe a month and a half.
Way shorter than I wanted it to be.
Okay, so then what did you do with this information? I imagine you writing something and...
Right.
What was the final
I just
product?
Wrote a research report and just showed emerging themes from the data and solidified some of my thoughts and conclusions in the end. I will say I feel like there's something more that I want to do with it because I have this black and white notebook at home sitting on my shelf that is full of these golden treasure stories that I feel like I have the responsibility to do something. I don't know if I can write a book. But I feel like I have the responsibility to do something with thoughts that are so vastly different from common American thinking. And it's gold.
Now's the time to write it.
We'll see. I don't know much about writing, but I do want to do something with it.
I mean, stuff like that takes a long time. Mm-hmm. But just, let that marinate.
Yeah.
consider. I mean, you know, people do that all the time. I know that there's one book in particular I'm thinking of. Just people go around and interview people, survivors of war or whatever, and then they make that into a book, you know.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't know if you've ever felt like, it's kind of like imposter syndrome, but I keep, like, I can name 20 people in my family and in my circle who I feel like should write a book before I should write a book. So, but I feel
that's probably the onset of imposter syndrome.
Probably.
I can't do that.
I know.
You'll transform your genes, though.
I know.
Gloria.
Dream transformation.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's an inspiring experience and I would want to read that book.
You're kind.
Because we can't spend 3 hours talking about each story. I mean, we could, but you're moving.
Yeah.
You're going to move.
I know.
To Denver.
That's sad.
I'm going to have to edit that out. Sometimes I have awkward pauses. But anyway.
Oh, that's okay. I do too.
I was trying to get off or go to the next thought too soon. So we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
Now, you're moving to Denver.
Denver.
Now, why? What inspired you to move to Denver?
My go-to list is my sister is out there with the tiny, cutest nephew ever.
Wait, how many sisters do you have? Siblings.
I have...
What do you have?
Okay, 3 sisters, 1 brother. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've heard you say sister so many times. I'm like, how many sisters?
There's a lot of them. Olivia, Grace, Elise. And,
okay.
Anyways, so moving out, my sister's out there, Grace. Mountains, sunshine.
Yes.
So, fact, Indianapolis gets an average of 186 days of sun a year. Denver gets 300. And so that makes me happy.
I could not believe that when you told me that.
I know.
Because I imagined Colorado.
More than Florida.
Or Denver.
Yeah.
More than Florida?
More than Florida.
Oh,
and so also just an environment change, like depending on your actual like geographical surroundings, but also just like a different state. People talk differently, they think differently. I'm excited to like have my mind shaped by like a different culture, a little bit. Mini culture, Denver culture. So new environment.
Yeah.
Just try something new.
When I think of Denver, or Colorado in general, I think of cold weather and snow.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people do. They only think of like, they get the worst snows out there.
Yeah,
snow that's 10 feet tall, which maybe that's possible. But also, when I was out there this winter, I was out there in December, it was snowing, but because the sun is so intense, because it's the mile-high city, it's warmer. And so I would be taking off my winter coat because the sun was so intense, even though there was snow on the ground. You guys, move to Denver.
I consider it.
I'm excited for Jade to move with me.
I know my
right,
family
Jade?
would be sad.
Oh, but you're so excited to move out there.
And see, and every time I think about it, I'm like, man, but I have this project in mind. I actually want to collaborate with people now. I might lose that. You know.
But hey, there's people in Denver you can collaborate with. Gloria's going to be in Denver.
I'll see.
Okay. Yeah.
I have this project I want to present to a couple of my friends.
Do you want to share about it?
No.
Okay.
I can't.
Yeah.
I can't let them know what it is yet because it's such an absurd idea.
Oh,
but
I love it already.
I know.
I can't. I'm hooked. Hooked.
And trust me, it's so absurd. I'm writing like a document for them, and I'm going to present it to them if I'm still obsessed about it next month. But
you will be.
Okay. What else? So what, as far as projects, is there anything else you imagine yourself doing?
Oh.
Like if you can let your imagination soar, what do you want to do?
What a fun question.
Yeah. Anything absurd. The more absurd, the better.
Okay. Well, let me think on this.
I guess I think project-wise, like do something that that connects all these things that you've done, like your research in the East, your TED Talk, stories.
I know that TED is usually a good place to start. So when I go out to Denver, I want to get connected to the Tedx Denver community.
There you go.
But I can't. Maybe I haven't let my imagination to run wild enough. But I can't think of anything specific. But I know that whatever I do, I want to be like. I want to build bridges of people of different social identities, different ways of living and help people connect and be able to be vulnerable and help people talk to each other,
Okay.
bring whimsy to people's lives.
Whimsy.
Whimsy.
What's that?
Whimsy is like this joyous thing. How do I describe it?
Is it some kind of social media character?
No,
Or
but
is-
it definitely could be. Whimsy is just, I think, I honestly am having trouble describing it. It's just kind of like delight and spontaneity mixed with maybe some artistic expression in
Think
some
of
way.
the word whimsical.
Yes, whimsical.
Is that
It
a
is,
derivative?
indeed. Just like kind of delightful and fun. So
Okay.
something whimsical might be like
So you want to bring this
bring whimsy to people.
to people.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like whimsy. I think something that could be described as
That's so
whimsical
fun.
is I found this 6-foot
shirt.
giant stuffed bear. Also my shirt right
Yeah.
now. Found this 6-foot stuffed giant bear at Goodwill. And one time I went to
Just kidding.
IUPY, I know, and set him up in like Kavanaugh Hall, Taylor Hall courtyard area, and had a sign that he was holding that said "free hugs," and so people would just go up and hug the bear, and so I see that as like a whimsical thing.
Did you videotape that?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Oops.
Do that. That is. Were you watching though? Like, were you sitting? Where
Yeah,
were
I was
you?
sitting next and just shouting like "free hugs!" Give Claude a free hug.
I guess I was imagining you setting it there and just like going farther away and just kind of watching people.
No,
That would be a fun thing to do, to see how people react.
that's true.
Well, because yeah,
Without
but you were
being
sitting,
watched?
You were
Yeah.
sitting next to it.
Yeah. I love my whimsy.
That's fantastic.
Keeps life going.
So that's whimsy to you.
Whimsy.
That's funny.
I don't know if I even have the definition right, but I feel like it's
Is that
important.
something you made up, or did you?
No, whimsy's whimsy's
thing?
like a thing.
It's a legit thing.
Siri would know if I have the
Really?
definition. Yeah. Let
It's
me
even
see.
in the Google algorithm.
Siri, define whimsy.
Whimsy means playfully quaint or fanciful behavior or humor.
Okay. Playfully quaint or fanciful humor. So something like that.
That was whimsy.
That was
just
whim-
that act itself.
Oh,
Plain
good. Yeah.
I appreciate those things.
Siri typically doesn't have whimsy, but maybe she does.
Thank you for that.
Of course.
That was awesome. Unfortunately, we do have to wrap this up.
Alrighty. Jade, thank
I
you for...
enjoyed this conversation.
I did too. You gave me the opportunity to share my story.
Oh, yeah.
And that's golden.
Totes,
That's
bro.
meaningful. Thank you.
And now your genes are transformed, and so are mine.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I
Just a little
feel
bit.
better in these jeans. And these jeans.
Oh, yeah. I just saw the word jeans when you said that. It's like, I
Yeah.
feel better in these jeans. That's funny. Any last remarks?
Mm.
Anything that... Going off what we were previously talking about,
I
as far
think...
as Denver.
Mm,
I do think that's a good starting point. At least you don't know exactly
so.
what you want to do, but you have these ideas in your head.
I have the
these things that you
people
want to do.
and the vague ideas and
Mhm.
the location.
You can't really understand it until you actually get there,
Right.
and you can start planning
Yeah,
things.
for sure.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see what you do and
Thank
about
you.
writing your book,
Oh, gosh.
even if it's 15 years from now.
Okay. We'll see about that.
Cool, man.
Cool. Thank you
Thanks,
again,
man.
Jade.
So,
Appreciate it.
yeah,
Until next time,
absolutely.
transform those jeans.
That's the message we send everybody.
Yes, and your story matters.
Confronting your fears too. Confronting your fears
Mm-hmm.
transforms your genes,
Yes.
and you're able to function better. That's kind of what keeps me pumped up in life, people.
Yeah.
So maybe you can find some inspiration in that
Yes.
itself.
Also, throwing them in the dryer for a few minutes also transforms
Yeah, you don't
your
want to
jeans.
wear wet jeans.
Nope.
Or if you don't wash your jeans and they're kind of wrinkly, maybe they have a weird smell.
You can put them in the freezer, and that like makes the jeans more fresh. I'm not kidding. Put your jeans in the freezer, and it helps them like reform to how they were or something. Yep.
Do you wrinkle them or get rid of weird...
Not sure. Get rid of like, it kind of cleans them in a way. I think it like freezes any germs or bacteria.
How the hell I never would have thought of that.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Freeze your jeans, people.
Awesome. Thanks, Gloria.
Thank you, Jade.
Thanks for listening, and I hope you join me on the next episode of Artist Solace. Bye-bye.